We're going to finish up that quadratic equations and applications. And then we're just going to review for the exam. So I have some practice, a practice packet for us to go through. Today you have the factoring trinomials due today. And then you really should try to get the one that's due on Wednesday. Try to get that done tomorrow because the exam's on Wednesday. And that will help you a lot. Yeah, it'll help you with 4 or 5 problems from that will be on the exam. So you want to make sure that you get to that one. So again, Wednesday's going to be, we're going to review for the first hour until about 12. Oh, sorry, that's supposed to be at 12. That doesn't make sense. Yes?
Did we turn the graph and quadratic functions I'm working on Friday? The papers?
Yes, we did. I need yours.
Sorry about that.
Does anybody else have that? You have the quadratic function? I think all you folks are still here. Ryan, do you have it? Do you have yours?
I didn't finish it yet.
Okay. It's better to turn it in late and complete than it is to turn it in on time and not done.
Okay.
You'll get less off. All right, so then, yeah, so on Wednesday we'll have the exam at noon. We'll review for the first 55 minutes, take a 5-minute break, come back, and then we'll do the exam. And again, you can use a basic calculator. You can use any calculator actually for that one. You should have one that you can do square roots and things like that. Okay. All right, so we are at quadratic equations and applications. So it looks like this one, obviously. Going to finish this one. Finish this. And I think where we left off was we'd done one of these together, and I think I was giving you folks time to finish up the other ones on your own. Is that right? Have you gone over any of these yet?
Yeah, we actually finished. I think we have.
You did all of them?
I got up
we
till
stopped-
3.
Yeah, till
Okay.
3. Yeah.
Up till 3.
All right, so I'll go over the last two. We did 1 and together, and I'll go over 2 and 3. Does that seem reasonable? I don't think we went over them. So I'll go over them to make sure that we are all on the same page with this. Okay, so the first one, number 2, we'll do up here. So my A equals 1, my B equals 8, my C equals 16. And I would really kind of suggest that maybe you write them in as x equals, and then minus parentheses, plus or minus parentheses squared, minus 4 parentheses. I didn't really talk about this that much last time, but times parentheses, divided by 2 times parentheses. And then put it whatever goes inside the parentheses in there. Right, so then it's negative b. So where does b go? B goes here, 8, doesn't go there. And it goes here. And then a goes, 1 goes here, 1 goes there, and then c, 16 goes there. And then kind of simplify them, right? So then negative 8 is just negative 8 plus or minus square root of 8 squared is 64. Minus 4 times 1 times 16 is minus 64, all over 2. Well, 64 minus 64 is just 0, so that becomes negative 8 plus or minus 0. Right, everyone on board with square root of 0 being 0? or to 0 over 2.
Mhm.
So it just becomes negative 8 over 2, which is negative 4. So there's only one solution. But we now need to set it equal to 0. So we have x, oh, sorry, that's it. X equals, that's actually it. X equals negative 4. That is our solution. All right, so then the second one, we'll go down here, and then we'll say, okay, here my A equals 3, my B equals 25, my C, there's no C, C equals 0. Everyone see that? There's no number part to it. So then when I pop this in, I'll go x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Now I need to put my pieces in there. So my pieces are, see, a is 3, goes in here and here. B is 25, it goes here and here. C is 0, it goes there. So then this part goes, I feel like we went over this. This part goes away. I know we did this one. All right, we'll do it again quickly. This becomes negative 25 plus or minus square root of 25 squared minus 0, so that just goes away, over 6. Okay, now remember square root of 25 squared is just 25, so this becomes negative 25 plus or minus 25 over 6. So I'm going to have two solutions. X equals negative 25 plus 25 over 6, and x equals negative 25 minus 25 over 6, because of this plus or minus, right? I have a plus and I have a minus. Right, everyone kind of on board with that part? So then I'll end up with x equals 0, right? 0 over 6, and x equals negative 50 over 6. Which you can do as a decimal, or just leave like that. I'm okay with either one.
We don't reduce that fraction?
In the exam, I don't care.
Okay.
Your homework will care.
Yeah.
It is all the same. It's all the same to me.
In this one, can I ask a question? C is 0, but it's a C on the left side, like a non-valued C on the left side of the equal
Oh,
sign, right? It's not the
Well, yes.
C that's on the other side of the equal
It's,
sign.
right, it's this side.
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
a C in there. So whenever there's a number
This
missing.
part here always has to be 0.
Right,
Always.
Right.
So if it's not 0, you need to make it 0.
right.
And there are somewhere you have to make it 0.
So like when there's a missing m square or a missing m, then you just fill that in with 0m or 0m squared, right? And that piece of the puzzle is
yes.
missing? Yeah.
So there's one. So here's one of those now.
Yeah.
So here we have a equals 1. I'll do this in a different color. A equals 1. B equals, what does B equal? Where's my, remember B is the number in front of x. A is the number in front of x squared. B is the number in front of x. And C is a regular ordinary number.
Right.
So I have 0 on the other side. I'm all good with that. My A is 1. My B is what? 0. There is no B. Right? There's no x. B is 0. There is no x term in here. And then my C is negative 36. So now when I plug this in, x equals negative b, negative parentheses, plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. I'm going to plug them in. My a is 1, that goes there and there. My b is 0, that goes here and here. My c is negative 36. So whenever you have these negatives, that's when this putting them in parentheses really comes in kind of handy, right? Because it's a lot easier to kind of do that. When you have them in parentheses. So this becomes, okay, -0 just goes away. So I have plus or minus square root of 0, that goes away. -4 times 1 times -36, that's a positive. A negative times a positive times a negative is positive. So this becomes positive 4 times 1 times 36, 72, 144 over 2. Okay, let's see. So square root of 144 is 12, so it's plus or minus 12 over 2. So it either becomes, so x is equal to 12 over 2, which is 6. Maybe I should spread those out, right? Positive 12 over 2, and x is equal to negative 12 over 2. So it means x is equal to 6 or negative 6. That's the plus minus part, right? One goes to plus, one goes to minus. Do folks want to discuss this with your neighbors a little bit? Yes, no? Said a no? Said yes?
I'm good, I got it. Doing the homework helps a lot on this, understanding it.
Yeah, so that is the biggest recommendation that I have, is that you folks do the homework on this. Turn off this for just a second. Move on. So here we've got, so again, the first thing you want to do is you need to have it equal to 0. So we're going to have, we've got to subtract 100 from both sides, right? Because it always has to equal 0. So I'm going to subtract 100 from both sides. Minus 100. So then we'll have x minus 20 equals 0. So now we know that our a is 1, our b is 0, there's no b factor, and our c is negative 20. I think all of you have gotten to that point. So we're going to put it in here. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of 4 times, square root of b squared.
0.
No, I gotta put parentheses for b, sorry. Parentheses squared minus 4, parentheses. Oh, it's supposed to be squared. Over 2 times parentheses. So let's fill these blanks. My a is 1, it goes here and here. My b is 0, it goes here and here. My c is negative 20, it goes in here. All right, so that simplifies a bit. So this becomes 0, that goes away, plus or minus square root of 0, that goes away too, minus 4 times 1 times negative 20. All right, so I can look through here and I have a negative, I have 2 negatives. So 2 negatives makes, anytime you have an even number, if you're multiplying a bunch of stuff together, this is an easier way of thinking about it,
Okay.
is see how many negatives you have multiplied together. You don't have to worry about the positives. If you have an even number of negatives, it's positive. If you have an odd number of negatives, it's negative. There might be a simpler way of thinking about it here.
Yeah, I knew there was something.
So those two kind of cancel each other out. So I'm left with positive, and it's 4 times 1 is 4 times 20 is 80. So I do the signs first, and then I do the numbers. That way I don't forget the signs. Right, signs first and the numbers, divided by 2. So I have square root of 80 over 2. Well, but we can simplify. So this would be your answer here, or you can simplify it. And 80 is really 2 times 40. I can take a 2 out of that. So then I'm left with 20. I can take a 2 out of that. I'm left with 10. I can take a 2 out of that. I'm left with 5. So this is really square root of 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. This is a what type of jail? Is it a 2-type jail or a 3-type jail? 2-type jail. They break out in groups of 2. This makes a 2 on the outside. This makes another 2 on the outside. So this makes me 2 times 2 times square root of 5 over 2. But look, I have a 2 here. These 2 cancel out. So I'm left with 2 times the square root of 5. And that is the answer. If you leave it as square root 80 over 2, I will take off half a point, which is practically nothing. Is that fair enough?
So you wouldn't square root the 80 like and bring it to a decimal?
Okay,
and put it
you could
over
do
there?
that.
Oh,
You could also just square root your decimal, if you want to do that. You could do that, and you could say 80 square root, raise it to the 1/2 power. That's what I would do. So either you do this, or you do this. You can do find square root of 80. So on my calculator, I would do 80 to the raised to the 0.5 power divided by 2, and I would get positive negative, don't forget this is going to be positive negative, 4.47. And I'm going to be okay with either one of them.
see, you wouldn't just square root the 80? You would raise it to the 1/2 power?
Well, that is square rooting it.
So when I do the square root of 80, it's not 8.9.
Yeah, and then you're going to divide it by 2.
Oh, and then you divide it by 2.
I'm sorry, I'll do that
Yeah,
step.
okay.
My bad. I can do that.
Oh, so you want to go all the way down to, okay. Then you divide by 2.
So yes, either one of these would be totally acceptable. I don't care. But you should give me one of those two. Because your calculators will all have the ability to square root. Yeah, for this class, TI-30 is a really good calculator to have. Yeah, TI-30?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's so fair.
perfect.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, those are awesome. Steph, pick that one up. Want to see over there? And just get all your stuff. All right, so then the next one was this application. Object is dropped from a starting altitude S. Its distance h above the ground is given by the function h equals t minus s, or h of t equals s minus 16t squared. So I'm not going to give it to you like this, but think of it like this. I think I recommend that you folks translate it immediately into x's and y's. So if I switch it into y equals, what would be my y, and what here is my y, and what here is my x? Any ideas?
The HT is the Y and the
Yep.
T is the X.
Yep. So this is my y, that's my x. So this becomes y equals s minus 16x squared. Is everyone on board with that part? So just rewrite it like that. Now, the s, I'm not going to give it to you like this one. The s is 6 feet. So really this becomes y equal, which should go right in here. So we're going to make this 6. So when will it be 2 feet above the ground? Well, what's my height, my y or my x? So maybe when you do this, always write down on the side what y and x stand for. Y is, what's my Y? X is what? Write down what X and Y stand for. So everybody do that. Write down what X and Y stand for.